Lucknow. I went to Lucknow to participate in an ATLS providers course in King George Medical University in Lucknow. I left for Lucknow on Tuesday. I believe it was the 17th of June 2025. I took the Vande Bharat Express from Durgapur to Kolkata. I spent the night in my Kolkata home, and the next morning I took a flight from Kolkata to Lucknow, which was a 1 hour 40 minutes flight, but I must tell you it was quite scary for obvious reasons. Flights have been in the news of late, and I had booked this flight before the reason why flights are in the news, and I got a seat in the emergency exit alley. And for the first time, to be really honest, I paid very close attention to the guidance provided by the person in the cabin crew who was telling me how to deal with an emergency during a flight, how to open the flight emergency gate and all that. So my flight landed in Lucknow around I would say 8 a.m. Yeah, around 8 a.m. I was free. I had my luggage ready to leave, but I did not leave Lucknow Airport, Chaudhry Charan Singh Airport, for almost 2 hours. What was I doing for those 2 hours? I was studying. I had gone to Lucknow to participate in the Advanced Trauma Life Support course, and I was led to believe that one had to read the manual that was provided to us, a 500-page book, which we had to know very well in order to pass this course. I had not finished reading the book, so I felt I should read it in the airport. While I was reading the book in the airport, I was worried that somebody would come up and say, "Why are you sitting here? What are you doing here? Why don't you leave? You've been sitting in this chair for almost 2 hours now. What's going on?" With these intrusive thoughts, I finished a couple of chapters, and then I thought maybe I should go to the hotel, where the check-in time was 3 p.m., but it was around 10:30 a.m. So I thought I'll go to the hotel and I'll wait there in the lobby. The people at the reception told me to wait till 3 p.m. They could not honor my request of an early check-in. So I was wondering whether I could wait in the lobby. They said, "Yes, you can wait in the business center," which is just a fancy way of indicating a place where there were lots of sofas and lots of reading table and all that. So I sat there at the books. I did not go on a sightseeing trip of Lucknow because I was mortally scared of not passing ATLS. Again, I did not know at this stage whether it was absolutely required to read the manual before attending the course, or it was just a scare tactic to keep us on our toes. I did not know that, but I decided that it's better to read the book and then realize it was not necessary than to not read the book and then realize it was necessary. So I continued reading the book. I was told around 3 p.m. that around 1:30 p.m. that I could check into my room. I checked into my room and continued reading. The next morning around 6:30 a.m. the ATLS course started, so I went to the venue. Now there was a trick that I had employed in going to the venue. If I had to leave at 6:30 a.m., I would book the Uber the previous night using the pick up later option. This I feel is a very good option that Uber has introduced, although I have many complaints with Uber, which is why Yatri Sathi has become so popular in Howrah station, because of the, shall we say, incompetence of Uber to regulate the behavior of its drivers. So, and one of the main complaints I have with Uber is if I book the Uber as a pick up now option and I don't opt for the tip, if I don't go opt for 20 rupees, 30 rupees, 40 rupees to be added to my fare as a tip to the driver, there is no way I would get an Uber within 30 minutes. That's my experience. I don't know if you have the same experience. If you have a different experience, let me know. If you have a similar experience, let me know in the comment section. Uber has become unusable. The only way I could use it is using the pick up later option, which definitely did help. Otherwise, it was quite scary using the Uber app after a long time. That is also because of my privileged life, where I have largely relied on my own vehicle for transport, for moving from point A to point B. But now that I was in a different city, which again felt like the same city. This is the story of Indian cities. If you are in a different city also, you feel like you're in the same city. The problems are the same, the roads look similar, the traffic is similar. Only the monuments might be different, the unique architecture might be slightly different. Otherwise, more or less, most Indian cities that I've been to in the last 3 or 4 years, they don't really have a different vibe. Speaking of vibe, Lucknow has this tagline called "Muskuraiye, aap Lucknow mein hai," which again is something which has been reduced to a caricature to an extent, and I will get to it in a moment's time. So now 6:30 a.m. I went to KGMU, King George Medical University. The auditorium was Atal Bihari Vajpayee Scientific Convention Center. It's a humongous building and really marvelous to look at. And so I was the second person to reach. This is gate number, I believe, 21, if I remember correctly. So I reached the venue and only one person was there apart from me and the guard. That one person was a doctor from Kuwait. He's actually an Indian doctor who is now working in Kuwait for 15 years. I believe I've talked about him in the previous video. And we started communicating with each other. He asked me where I am from. I told him that I'm from West Bengal. He told me that he was from Uttar Pradesh but has been working now for 15 years in Kuwait. So I asked him naturally, why are you here? He said that now they have made it mandatory for people to have these qualifications in order to get promotion. Then he asked me why did I go for this course. So I said that I just want to embellish my CV, which is probably the only reason I attended this course, to have an additional qualification in my CV. I don't think it will have any real world implication, any benefit, but we will come to the real world opportunity that may have opened for me after this course. We will talk about that. So slowly other people started coming in and the course started around 7:30 in the morning. And the first thing that was mentioned to us was you should have read the manual 3 times. Remember, I had read it only once, and even while reading it once, I was skeptical whether I was doing too much preparation or not. So I had done 1/3 the preparation that was necessary for this course, so obviously I was scared. Now what is ATLS? ATLS is Advanced Trauma Life Support. It was started by the American College of Surgeons, its Committee on Trauma, because one of the American orthopedic doctors, Dr. Schneider, met with an aircraft incident in Nebraska, and he received what he felt was care that was even below the standards of care that he could provide in the field. The care that he received in a hospital, he felt, was below the standard that he could provide in the field. So he felt something must be wrong with the system. This was a tragic incident. He lost members of his family. He himself was severely injured, but the lesson he learned was he must improve the system. So he devised this course, Advanced Trauma Life Support, which aimed to standardize care provided to trauma victims all over the world. It started in America and then it branched out to other parts of the world, and it is conducted by the ATLS India group in India, and it is, I hope, up to the standards of the American College of Surgeons. So the principle is you have to attend to the patient, stabilize the patient before you transfer the patient to a different hospital or the same hospital to receive definitive care. And it is possible to stabilize every patient provided all the steps are carried out in the algorithm that exists for ATLS, A, B, C, D, E, airway, breathing, circulation, disability, and exposure and environment control. And I will not talk about the details of ATLS here, just the philosophy of it, that one has to aim to reduce mortality from trauma as much as possible, and life can be saved if one follows a logical framework of action. So then once the course was done, I was worried about my outcome, and the course usually would start around 6:30 in the morning and would last till 7 in the evening, and I would reach around 7:30. I would reach the hotel around 7:30 in the evening, and after reaching at 7:30 I would not be able to study the night. But I did have to study on Friday night, because Saturday was the day of the exam, the assessment, practical as well as theory. The theory assessment was 40 questions, 5 options, single best answer, 90 minutes. And the practical assessment was treating a moulage patient, that is the patient who was dressed up as a trauma victim, and one had to follow the ABCD approach to stabilize the patient and transfer the patient for definitive care if required. Suffice to say, when the results were being declared, I was not certain of passing, and we were handed an envelope and we were told whether to check. We were given two options. We could check the results right away or we could check them later on. When I checked the results, I found out not only had I passed the exam, I had also demonstrated instructor potential, which is what I was hinting at, that now other avenues have opened up. I can choose to teach others ATLS if I so choose. And if I am so, it has to be a two-way process. I have to apply to be an instructor and they have to consider me to be good enough to be an instructor. I do have the potential, but can I convert this potential into kinetic instructor energy? I don't know. But watch this space if you want to find out if I go ahead with becoming an instructor in the ATLS program or not. So the final day of Lucknow was dedicated to sightseeing. I went to Rumi Darwaza. Rumi Darwaza was the first place. I think it translates to Turkish Gate. It is situated midway between Bara Imambara and Chota Imambara. I went to Chota Imambara, then I went to Bara Imambara, and all throughout this journey I had to hear this word, this phrase constantly in my ear, "Muskuraiye, aap Lucknow mein hai." I dropped them off. So throughout this sightseeing thing, I kept hearing, "Muskuraiye, ab Lucknow mein hai, muskuraiye, ab Lucknow mein hai." Who were saying these things? Guides, people who wanted money. Now, I am not against guides. I am not against people earning their livelihood. I just don't want to help them because I want to figure things out on my own. Many things I would not be able to find out. Many things are not available on the internet. Many things are wrongly available on the internet, but I don't like guides. It's just a problem I have. So I went to Chota Imambara, then Bara Imambara, which is obviously much bigger, and I saw these portraits of Ayatollah Khomeini, Ayatollah Khamenei, and I realized the Shia mausoleum, so the most important spiritual leader for Shia Muslims will have a presence in these places. So that was something which I did not know, and I noticed for the first time, and it was something which I took note of. My exposure to Lucknow before this trip was through literature, Satyajit Ray's Badshahi Aunty, then Satyajit Ray's Shatranj Ke Khilari, Akash Banerjee, who is a famous YouTuber from Lucknow, and the things that we have come across in Hindi movies, Pehle Aap, which is absolutely not true. Nobody waits for you in Lucknow. I realized that when I was crossing the busy street. So, and of course I had heard about the famous Lucknowi cuisine, the biryani, the galauti kebab. So on Sunday I visited the three places I mentioned, Bara Imambara, Chota Imambara, Rumi Darwaza. Then I went to British Residency, which is a phenomenal place, a place that was constructed by the Nawab of Awadh, and it was for the British resident, the person who had a lot of power. It was basically the consolidation of British rule by the East India Company, and this area, the British Residency, was the area where British people were supposed to stay, and this was attacked during the First War of Independence, and what remains is largely the remains of the buildings. There's also a model, I am forgetting the right word for it, in the museum which shows how the buildings were there, but now those buildings don't exist. They just remains of it, charred remains, broken remains of a building which has been a victim to relentless cannonball fire. Also, people who succumbed to cannonball fire, there was even great illustrations of people who died because of cannonball injuries. So that was Sunday. Then I got tired after visiting 4 places. I went to Tunde Kebabi in Aminabad, and I had the world's best galauti kebab there. Then I went to Gomti riverfront, where I relaxed for some time. I relaxed right next to Gomti river. Many people walked in and had a look at the river and said, "It's so contaminated," something that I don't agree with. I enjoyed sitting next to the river, but everyone who looked at the river had the same thing to say: "This river is dirty." Again, an opinion that I don't agree with myself. So once I was waiting there for till about 5 in the evening, I went back to Marriott, and again I had booked the Uber to the airport. I went back to the airport around 6:30. My flight was around 9 in the evening, 9 p.m. It was delayed a bit, but I reached Kolkata around midnight, and the next morning was the train back to my current workplace. So again, Vande Bharat Express. I reached around 8:30, and that's it. That's my trip to Lucknow. Thank you for watching this video.